Quang Duong is telling the PPA and MLP, you need me more than I need you. Quang Duong just got hit with the biggest punishment in pickleball history from the UPA, the company that owns MLP and PPA. I'm going to tell you what we know, as well as my theories as to why it happened. The more I think about this, the more interesting it actually gets. So, Guang was hit with a $50,000 fine, a suspension for one MLP event, and a suspension for one PPA event. This is the biggest penalty we've seen in pickleball since early last year when Andre Deescu got hit with a similar $50,000 fine and a 2-month suspension for having an illegal substance on his paddle face. Guang will miss this week's Phoenix MLP, where the Mad Drops are scheduled to play 6 matches. That might not sound like a ton until you realize it's 25% of their entire regular season and probably their best opportunity to earn much needed points for the playoff push. He's also going to miss the PPA San Clemente, which is worth 1,500 ranking points. So, what happened? League officials are claiming that Kwang participated in a non UPA sanctioned event. Now, obviously, I haven't read all of the contracts, so there's no way to completely verify this, but it's completely reasonable to believe that everybody's UPA contract would have an exclusivity clause in it, and some are likely different than others. For example, Annalie Waters was allowed to play the US Open, and she was the only UPA player, to my knowledge, that actually played the event. Eric Tice from the Dink was able to get a statement from the UPA source that said, MLP and PPA have invested very significantly in our player contracts, and they're written to ensure exclusivity so the league, the tour, and our players can work together to grow the sport in mutually beneficial ways. When contract terms are violated, there have to be consequences. We look forward to having Kwang participate in MLP and PPA events following this brief suspension and trust this issue will be put behind all of us. Now, there's definitely some gray area here, and the exclusivity has historically been most serious surrounding tournaments and promotion of other leagues. And honestly, Kwang has been playing with fire a little bit in that regard. He's been back and forth to Vietnam a ton, which makes complete sense because he's a legend in his home country. He's done several large scale events there and seems to at least be there when other tournaments were going on. If you just take a look at his Instagram, there are just countless images of him playing in front of huge crowds. And most recently, he was doing events over Memorial Day weekend, which was likely what caused the UPA to fine him. I have a few theories here. I feel very confident that Kwang has done something like this before and has been sternly warned by the UPA previously, which is why they came back at him with such a large and public punishment. With the exception of Andre last year, most fines have kind of been slaps on the wrist, but this is clearly far more serious. Next, I would be shocked if Kwang didn't do something like this again in the future. His entire brand is likely worth so much more in Vietnam than it is here in the States. And that's not to say that it's not worth anything here in the States. You can see it by the way that he fills up events, by the way that he signed an enormous contract with SitePick, and I'm assuming a solid contract with Wika as well. I think that Kwang and Duke knew that they would be fined and made the calculated decision to probably do the event anyway. I think the UPA is sensitive around this because they've just launched the PPA Asia event, and Vietnam, at this point, is probably the largest market in Asia. If I take a look at my YouTube views, Vietnam ranks third behind just the United States and Canada, and it's growing faster. Finally, I could totally see this as a negotiating tactic from Kwang and Duke. Remember, back in the Tour Wars in 2023, when Kwang signed his PPA deal, hardly anybody really knew of him. He was new to the game. He had a couple of good runs at APP and PPA, but he was by no means the international superstar that he is today. In fact, it wasn't long before that he was considering continuing his college tennis career and playing. It's fair to say that Kwang's value to UPA has probably grown tenfold since the time that he signed his contract. So why not try to renegotiate? I think that Kwang and Duke are telling the UPA, you need us more than we need you. Remember, Kwang was also allegedly hit with a cease and desist from Selkirk for contract violations and then moved on to SitePick. So it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.